Penny's Big Breakaway was a game that I haven't heard too much about since it was announced and leading up to release, but I was really excited for it because it was being developed by the same devs as Sonic Mania, which I love that game. After playing it when it shadow dropped during the recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase, there is a lot to love about Penny's Big Breakaway, but certain issues, specifically some technical issues and the platforming, keep it from hitting that next level. But regardless, let's talk about it. Hi guys, DPX here, reviewing today Penny's Big Breakaway. Now before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell, leave a comment, or I will choke you out with a yo-yo. Starting off with the good, I love the aesthetic of this game. Visually, you can just see Penny's Big Breakaway just pop. It helps the game set itself apart in a genre that we don't even really see too often. But Penny's Big Breakaway is a labor of love to 3D platformers, and while I have my thoughts on the actual platforming, I do like how the game kind of feels. I mean, I'll talk about the gameplay in a bit, but what I mean by how the game feels, I mean it certainly does seem like the Sonic Mania devs made this game, but it feels like a 2D Sonic game in 3D, and I mean that as a compliment. The gameplay is cool too. As the name implies, you play as Penny, and she has a yo-yo, which she uses to attack enemies, swing in the air, launch herself in the air, and even ride it. There are also certain abilities for the yo-yo you can run into. There is one that makes the yo-yo even bigger, which helps when you want to go through certain walls. One where you can glide pretty high in the air. One where you can give your yo-yo a motor or some shit. It's pretty cool. The levels are pretty neat as well. They aren't simple left to right levels, because it's in 3D, but they aren't simple and basic, but they do have some obstacles in certain sequences that are very flashy, you know what I mean? There are also the boss fights, which I have some opinions on that I'll get to later, but there were some boss fights that I found unique, and when you really figure out what it is you have to do, you come to actually really appreciate the creativity in the bosses. Additionally, going back to what I said about earlier about the aesthetic, it really pops during the cutscenes. And yeah, most cutscenes are 2D still images, but they look great. And lastly, Penny's Big Breakaway exudes personality. After finishing this game, there are many things I can say about it, but calling it bland is not one of them. Moving on to the mixed things about Penny's Big Breakaway, one of which is the music. In fact, I was actually about to put the music in the good, because there are a few tracks that I really dug, but the soundtrack to me overall just wasn't very memorable. I like the boss music, but even then, it was pretty much the same song that played every boss fight to what I remember. And how the game works is each world there's like 3 or 4, sometimes 2, and I can even recall one of them had 5 levels. Each level kind of just had the same song, like not remixed or anything like that. Every time the next level started, the song that was just playing would just restart. It's not a deal breaker or anything, but you can clearly see the musical talent that was put into the soundtrack with some tracks, but they didn't really go all the way with it, I feel. The other thing is something I kind of just mentioned, and that's how the worlds are weirdly inconsistent. I don't mean to compare this game to Sonic, but in those games, each zone had like 2 levels. I think some games had 3 levels per zone, and then a boss. In Penny's Big Breakaway, each world might have 3 levels, might have 2 levels, might have 4, might have 5, some might just have 1 level and then a boss fight, and some worlds might not even have a boss fight. And it's not like there was a boss fight in, say, like, every other world, you know. I can recall going 2 to 3 entire worlds in the game without fighting a boss. Again, it's not a deal breaker, but it's a weird way to structure a game. Moving on to the bad, I got some issues. One small issue is that you can't run. I say this is a small issue because being able to ride the yo-yo is pretty much there instead of being able to run. But there were some moments where it honestly felt like it would have been safer to run if there was an option to do so. Another issue I have, and this is a much bigger issue, and that's the glitches. I haven't really heard that many people talk about the glitches in this game, but there were a lot of them. And it wasn't like, oh, that guy is clipping through the wall, how funny, or wow, that texture took a little bit longer to load than everything else. No, there were glitches that straight up killed me in the game. Sometimes I would press a button and nothing would happen. A few times I got hit and Penny just started levitating and I couldn't really do anything except for restart the level. Sometimes I would die because, you know, I missed a jump or whatever, and then the game would just restart me in the air below the platform I was trying to get to, and those were just a few. When a game has glitches that actually affect the way you play the game and kill you, that's a problem. And lastly, and this has probably been exacerbated by the glitches, but the platforming at times just didn't feel right. Call it a skill issue, but there were many moments where I died because it was very difficult to see where I would land. Sometimes the camera is just way too zoomed out and at a fixed position, so it doesn't follow you when you make a jump, thus making it difficult to see where you're gonna land, and then you fucking die. It felt like sometimes I had to die and lose health in order to figure out how I can make a certain jump. It was really frustrating. Don't walk away from this review with the idea that I didn't like Penny's Big Breakaway, cause I'd say I liked it more than I didn't. Even though the bizarre platforming and the aggravating glitches definitely hurt the game for me, overall, I can tell it's a labor of love to a genre that we really should be seeing more of. The gameplay, the levels, the aesthetic, and the overall personality makes Penny's Big Breakaway a fun experience, even though there are some not so fun moments. But regardless, I think we need more games like this. You know, more smaller games that take inspiration from just pure inspiration, really. Overall, I'm going to give Penny's Big Breakaway a 7.5 out of 10. If this is a game you're looking forward to, I think you should try it out, because it is a lot of fun. But like I said, even though it is a lot of fun, there are some really not fun moments, at least in my personal opinion. But that's my thoughts on Penny's Big Breakaway. I wanted to love this game, and I don't really love it, but what do you guys think about it? Do you guys like it, not like it? Have you guys played it, not played it? Do you guys have it, not have it? And if you haven't gotten it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Anything about the game, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like this video, subscribe, or I will choke you with a yo-yo.